that your vision begins to expand. What you actually are willing to do begins to expand when you're very clear as to why you want to do it. It's almost approaching that time of the year where many people are going to be sitting down and just sort of thinking about what it is that they want to accomplish. Like, what are their new goals? What are their new aspirations? And so some people are going to pull out a piece of paper and they're going to come up with these things. Some of them are going to refer to them as resolutions. Some people are going to refer to them as goals. Some people are going to talk about perhaps it's their vision. Whatever you choose to call it, I know that this is, and we're approaching that time where people are going to begin to start setting out some new goals, some new aspirations. Some people are going to say, you know what? This is going to be the year that I'm finally going to lose this weight. I've been battling with weight and I'm finally going to lose this weight this year. Some people are going to say, you know what? This is going to be the year that I'm going to get out of debt. You know, I've been struggling with these credit card bills. I've been struggling with these student loans and so forth. I am going to get out of debt. Some of you are going to be saying, you know, this is going to be the year that I'm going to start my own business. I've been thinking about starting my own business, but this is going to be the year that I'm going to start my own business. Some of you are already in business, and you're going to say to yourself, you know, this is going to be the year that I hit the 6-figure mark. This is going to be the year that I hit the 7-figure mark. And you're going to set some high expectations, some high goals. Some of you are going to say, you know what, this is the year I'm going to go back and I'm going to get a degree. I'm going to get a different diploma. I'm going to get my master's. I'm going to get my doctorate. Some of you are going to say, you know, this is the year that hopefully I'm going to find that special someone. I'm going to get married. Listen, there's going to be a lot of new goals that are set, a lot of new resolutions that are set. But let me be the very first one to tell you that one of the big mistakes that people make as they get ready to set out these new goals, these new dreams, and these new aspirations that they have for themselves, one of the first things that they fail to do is to literally make the decision and figure out up front why they want to do those things. And so if they want to lose the weight, why do you want to lose the weight? If they want to start the business, why do you want to start the business? If you want to make the career shift, why do you want to make the career shift? If you want to write the book, why do you want to do it? And I'm telling you, the reason why most people won't even be 30 days into the new year and literally start compromising and passing up and breaking their New Year resolutions or their goals and their aspirations and the things that they're setting out for themselves is because they didn't establish up front when they were setting these goals, when they were setting these resolutions, exactly why they wanted to do it. And so I want to save you some time. I want to save you some grief. And not only that, but I want to increase the probability of you accomplishing these goals and these dreams and these things that you're setting out for yourself by making sure that you understand the importance of figuring out exactly why you want to do these things and being crystal clear on why you want to make it happen. Why? Because here's what I know. Once you set out to accomplish your goals and your dreams, guess what? Life is going to happen. You know what? Your old habits, your old routines are going to want to take over. Not only that, but trust and believe that I can assure you of this. If you've got a big lofty goal, a big lofty dream, something that you're pursuing, guess what? Something is going to happen to derail you. Something is going to happen to have you start second guessing yourself, to wonder, you know what, do I really want to do this? Do I really want to start the business? Do I really want to get to this particular income level? Do I really want to lose the weight? Do I really want to get out of debt? Because guess what? It's going to turn out in many times to be just a tad bit harder than what you thought it was going to be. And in those moments, that's typically the time that most people decide to throw in the towel. And what I'm saying to you is that needs to be the time that you become laser focused and locked in as to why you want to do it. Why do you want to make this thing happen? And once you become crystal clear on why you want to make the thing happen, I'm telling you, that is what's going to give you the courage. That's what's going to give you the strength. That's what's going to give you the fortitude to keep pushing forward, to not throw into towel, to finally accomplish and realize your goals and your dreams. I tell you, I remember very early on, and I'm talking about over 14 years ago, I was part of a direct sales company. And I remember being part of this direct sales company and having all of these amazing dreams and aspirations about how it's going to hit the top position in the company, and how it's going to become a multi-millionaire in the company, and how it's going to do some extraordinary things in the company. And I tell you one thing, I was doing pretty well in the company, okay? So I was getting customers and clients. I was building my team and so forth. But there's another gentleman who was working the business with me at the same time. And I'll never forget this. We had just finished up what was called a PBM, which was like a private business meeting. And he and I went out in the parking lot, and we were sitting in the car. And we pulled out this CD. I'll never forget this. It was a CD. And on the CD was a gentleman by the name of Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn is an extraordinary thought leader, motivational speaker, but I would say thought leader. Jim Rohn, unfortunately, has passed away, but Jim Rohn is responsible for influencing some of the greats in the personal development industry. Jim Rohn was a mentor to Darren Hardy, who happens to be the editor-in-chief of Success Magazine. Jim Rohn was a mentor to Tony Robbins, one of the biggest in the personal development industry. Jim Rohn was a mentor to Les Brown, one of the top 5 speakers in the world. It was Jim Rohn that says that we must all suffer from one of 2 pains in life. He said either the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. He said that the difference is discipline weighs ounces, but regret weighs tons. It was Jim Rohn that said that success is a few simple disciplines exercised every single day. It was Jim Rohn who said, when the end comes for you, let it find you conquering a new mountain and not sliding down an old slippery slope. It was Jim Rohn who said, learn to work harder on yourself than you do on your job. He said, if you work hard on your job, then you'll make a living. But if you work hard on yourself, then you'll make a fortune. And so I remember we were listening to this CD called The Art of Exceptional Living by Jim Rohn. If you've never listened to that CD, that audio program, get a copy. I'm telling you, it would change your life. And we were sitting in the car and we were listening to this. And I remember we had went for about an hour where we weren't saying anything to one another, but we were just listening to the principles and the things that Jim Rohn was sharing. And then out of nowhere, my friend looked over and he said, Andy, he said, man, he said, you know what? He said, one day we're going to be one of the top producers in this company. He said, man, one day, he said, people are going to read about us in the magazine for the direct sales industry. He said, one day, man, people are going to be mentioning our name when it comes to direct sales. And I remember looking over at him and I said to myself, yeah, man, you're right. But let me just tell you, when we were sitting in that car and he made that statement, there was a clear distinction between the both of us at that moment. You see, when he made that statement at that particular time, when he made that statement, he had a wife and children to support. At the time when he made that statement, he had one of his good friends, his best friend, as a matter of fact, that was locked up in prison. At the time where he made that statement, he didn't have a college education. He didn't have a cushy corporate job that he could go back to. At the time that he made that statement, he literally felt as if this opportunity was the only thing that was possible for him to be able to provide for his family and do the things that he needed to do, considering his current circumstances, considering that if he were to go the same route of his friend, he could end up in jail, considering that if he didn't, he would probably have to resort to just getting a minimum wage paid job because he didn't have a college degree. Now, mind you, I'm sitting in the same vehicle and I'm telling him, yeah, man, we're going to do this. And at that time, I'm working as a CPA for one of the largest professional service firms in the world. I have a very nice paycheck that's hitting my bank account every 2 weeks. At the time, the only person that I was responsible for providing for was myself. At the time, the only reason why I was part of the company because I was, enthralled with the idea of being an entrepreneur and being part of this very exciting company. But it wasn't something that I had to do. And I had no clear conviction as to why I was doing the business. And sure enough, what do you guess? You know what? I had the comfort of a job. I started getting involved with real estate. I had other things going on. And so eventually I stopped working that particular business. But my friend, he had no other options. And even though he had to go through a course of years of paying his dues, years of not making very much money, years of trying to figure things out, I'll never forget this, that I hadn't spoken to him for probably about 4 years. And I was at a particular event and I was standing at the front of the room and I was speaking. And somebody came up to me and they told me, hey, Andy, I want to talk to you, man. He says, listen, I saw you speaking at the front of the room. I see how you're able to connect with people. You have this ability to connect with people, to inspire people. Hey, man, I'm a part of a direct sales company. I would love for you to be a part of my team. Hey, man, I want to give you this magazine. I just want you to take this magazine home, take a look at it, and then eventually I'd love for us to get back on the phone. And so I remember coming home and throwing the magazine to the side. And I didn't flip in the magazine literally for a couple weeks. And then one day I decided to pick up the magazine. I started flipping through the pages. And as I flipped through the pages, lo and behold, I got to the center of the magazine and there was a full page spread on guess who? My friend that I was sitting in that car with. My friend who at that time when he made that statement was absolutely broke. But the main difference is when he made that decision, and he said, Andy, one day we're going to be one of the top producers in the company. And I'm reading this article that's talking about how he was one of the top producers in the company. And he said, one day they're going to read about us in magazine. And I remember chuckling and saying, oh, my goodness, I'm reading a magazine about this guy. And I remember when he said that they're going to be reading about us in the magazine. And I'm telling you, when I put that thing down, what I realized that there was a major distinction between the two of us when it came to that company at that moment. And the major distinction was when we set out and we were having the conversation about what it is that we wanted to do, he was very, very clear as to why he wanted to do it. And me, it was just something that I was doing. And so I want to save you the hassle. I want to save you the time so that you don't start something and not follow through, so that you don't start something and not finish. What I'm saying to you is I want you to establish up front, why do you want to make these things happen? These amazing things that you're going to be super excited about making happen in this upcoming year. I want you to establish up front, why do you want to make these things happen? Why is it that you're committing to starting this business? Why is it that you're committing to hitting that income level? Why is it that you're committing to losing the weight? Why is it that you're committing to actually getting out of debt? Why is it that you're committing to having healthy relationships in your life? You need to establish upfront. Nietzsche said that the man or the woman who can establish the why for living can endure almost any how. And so when you're clear on why you're doing something, then what happens is when the going gets tough, you can keep going. When you find yourself going through hell, you'll have the ability to keep pushing forward, as Winston Churchill would say. When you find yourself in the midst of a setback, you'll position yourself to continue to push forward and start manifesting your comeback, as Dr. Willie Jolly would say. When you find yourself in the middle of your breakdown, you'll find a way to keep pushing forward so that you can have a breakthrough, as John C. Maxwell would say. You will find a way to keep pushing forward. You will find a way to push yourself forward, but you've got to have a compelling reason. You got to have something that's going to make it worth it for you. I tell you, I'll never forget this time. Another one of my good friends, my buddy Eric Rhett, who played in the NFL for about 8 years, he said, Andy, man, he said, Andy, one time I was playing a football game, and he says, man, we were in the fourth quarter of the football game. And for those of you who follow sports, and for some of you who don't follow sports, I want to just share something that happens oftentimes. During the course of a football game in the fourth quarter, it is not uncommon, if you ever watch a football game, and even if you're not a big football fan, it's not uncommon that when the fourth quarter begins, that as you look on the field, you'll see many of the athletes that will show and hold up 4 fingers in the air. And so typically that's the indication that we are entering the fourth quarter. And so this means that it is the final quarter of the game. This is the final quarter. And this final quarter oftentimes is going to decide whether or not you leave with a W for a win or L for a loss. And my buddy said, Andy, man, he said, I'll never forget this. He said, my mom was at one of my football games, and he said it was during my freshman year. And he said, man, he said, I remember during the football game, it was the fourth quarter, and I held up my four fingers, and I was looking out into the actual crowd. And he says, I was trying to find my mom. And he said, I spotted my mom, and I showed her the four fingers. And he said, man, here's what I know. He says, I know that the majority of people who were there at the football game who saw me have my four fingers up, they thought that, like the rest of my teammates, that when I was holding up my four fingers, that what I was trying to say to my mom is that we're in the fourth quarter. And he said, Andy, he said, I was telling my mom something entirely different. My mom knew exactly what I was telling her. He said, Andy, because here's what I need you to understand, man. He says, I came from a very difficult type of set of circumstances, man. We didn't have very much. And some of you may know, I've shared the story before. My buddy Eric, and him and his brother and his mom and everybody, they grew up in a very small unit. It was probably about 500 to 600 square feet. And my buddy Eric, for 18 years, had to watch his mom sleep on the same green couch. And Eric said, man, Andy, when I held up my fingers for four, the rest of my teammates were saying it's the fourth quarter, but I was telling my mom, hang in there, mom, because 4 more years, give me 4 more years of playing this game. And I'm telling you, I'm going to give everything that I have. I'm going to put it all on the line. I'm going to play this game so hard with so much commitment that I intend on getting a NFL contract, that I intend on becoming pro. And if you can wait just 4 more years, I promise you that I'm going to get you off that couch. I promise you that I'm going to buy you a house. And sure enough, Eric was holding up those 4 more years for his mom that freshman year. And sure enough, his work ethic, his commitment. Back in 1994, Eric Rhett would be drafted in the 2nd round by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 4 years after giving his mom that signal, and Eric would buy his mom a beautiful home, but most importantly, he would get his mom off of that couch that she had been sleeping on for 18 years. And so what I love about when I think about Eric Rhett's story, and when I think about these little tidbits that he drops when he tells me his journey in making it to the NFL, and I'll never forget one time we were sitting in the car and he told me the story about the 4, when he was holding the 4 up for his mom. And he said that the rest of the people thought that he was talking about fourth quarter. He said, Andy, I wasn't talking about the fourth quarter. I was saying to my mom, 4 more years. Hang in there, 4 more years. I'm going to give everything that I can here at the University of Florida. I'm going to play this game like nobody's business. I'm going to run this ball so hard. I'm going to stay committed and dedicated that I will make it to the NFL, and I will be able to change my life and in turn change your life, Mom. Just give me 4 more years. That is somebody who had a serious why. That is somebody who understood why he was doing it. So that means during the times when he was playing football and he got hurt, during those times when he was playing football and he was frustrated, during those times he was playing football and he was second guessing himself, he had a reason to keep pushing forward. And what I'm saying to you is, as you get ready to set these goals, as you get ready to raise the bar, as you get ready to tell yourself the things that you want to do, I'm asking you right now, why do you want to do it? Why? Why do you want to get out of debt? Why do you want to start the business? Why do you want to take your income level to that amount? Why do you want to lose the weight once and once for all? Why do you want to get married? Why do you want to grow a family? Why do you want to invent whatever it is that you want to invent? Why do you want to write a book? If you know your why and you're crystal clear on it, you automatically significantly increase the probability of you realizing your goals and your dreams. But I'm telling you one thing, don't make the mistake that most people will make. They're going to set out some goals and some dreams, and they're going to set out all these things, and they're going to write down all the desires of their heart, but they're never going to really stop and go line by line and think about why they want to do it. And because they fail to acknowledge, and because they fail to try to consider, because they fail to solidify, because they fail to focus as to why they want to do it, the moment they hit an obstacle, and the obstacle will come. The moment things become difficult, and oftentimes they do become difficult, the moment that they find themselves second guessing and questioning whether or not it's possible for them, guess what happens? They throw in the towel. And then they wait a whole nother year, and then they start setting all the same goals and making all the same resolutions all over and all over again. And what I'm saying is that you will find that you begin to raise the bar. That your vision begins to expand. What you actually are willing to do begins to expand when you're very clear as to why you want to do it. You know, I am so proud of my wife. For some of you know my wife, some of you don't. My wife, her name is Coach Kaz. The name of her company is InspireMany.com. And we talk about why. You know, I've watched my wife with various coaching programs. I've seen her mentor so many women and help them to transform their lives, to help women to be able to find the love that they truly desire. My wife is a love coach, a relationship coach. She helps successful single women to be able to find the love of their life, to be able to do the personal work so that they can begin to have happy, healthy relationships in their life. She is also a professional matchmaker. She's part of the Matchmaker Institute. And so one of the products that my wife recently launched were these amazing, amazing greeting cards. And her whole premise of creating these greeting cards is that, you know, oftentimes when people are dating somebody, you know, they go to a actual store and they decide to go get a card to give to somebody that they're dating. And oftentimes those cards are like too mushy, right? They're saying, I love you. And they're just saying too much. And so she's like, how do you find a card that just says the right thing? And so my wife decided to start her own greeting cards. And if you want to check out the website, it's called It's All About Love. It's allaboutlovecards.com. Once again, it's allaboutlovecards.com. But here's what I love about what my wife did. You know, I've seen her create products and programs in the past. But this particular time, when she decided to create this particular product, she created it with the intention of pre-funding our daughter's education. And so my wife said, you know what? I'm going to create something that is going to create a revenue stream, something that I believe the marketplace has a need for, but it's going to create a revenue stream that's going to allow us to be able to prepay for our daughter's college education and her education even before college. And so the beautiful thing is, I sort of sat back and I watched my wife. She created these cards. I saw her go ahead and, you know, get her website up and going and the cards. And I see a couple sales taking place. And then I saw what happened because of the fact that my wife had a strong conviction in something beyond just selling the cards and beyond just the revenue, but because it was tied to my daughter's education. And I watched my wife go ahead and make a phone call, and I watched her close a deal to literally sell to one single organization. She sold over 600 units of her actual cards. And we're talking about a profit of thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, more than what many people make in literally in 3 months worth of working. And I watched her go ahead and close this deal. And what was so beautiful about it was that the fact that I understood when I was listening into her conversation and I was listening to her conviction level and I was listening to her close this sale for thousands of dollars for her card. What I was, the reason why I was smiling is because as I was listening to the conversation, I knew that the reason why her conviction level was at the place that it was at was because of the fact that she had a significant why. It's because of the fact that she wanted to raise money to be able to start prepaying for her daughter's education. And sure enough, she closed that deal, and my wife took that check and she deposited into a bank account for our daughter. And I bring that up to you because I want you to understand this, that when you attach what you're looking to make happen with something meaningful to you, you begin to show up a little differently. Your conviction level begins to shift and to change. Your commitment level becomes elevated. Your level of dedication becomes elevated, and you begin to produce a different level of results. And so what I'm saying to you is this, is that as you get ready, and I'm going to challenge you to dream big and to literally start casting your vision and start thinking about what it is that you want to manifest, the things that you want to make happen in your life. And as you begin to make these things happen, I want you to start thinking about these things that you're setting out, these goals, these resolutions, these dreams, these whatever you want to call them. I want you line by line to ask yourself on each one, why do you want to make this thing happen? And I want to save you time. If you can't come with a worthy reason as to why, and I'm telling you right now, if it has to do with finances, your why better be more than just making a bunch of money. Listen, if money alone was a great motivator, everybody would be wealthy. Money alone is not a good enough motivator. There needs to be a strong enough conviction. All right, so you get the money. Why do you want the money? Money is not necessarily going to bring you happiness. There needs to be a greater cause. And so if you want to lose the weight, listen, if you don't have a real reason, a conviction level to lose the weight, then chances are you're just going to go ahead and rubber band all over. You're going to lose a little weight and gain it right back, right? If you don't have a real reason to get out of debt, then chances are, guess what? You're going to dibble and dabble and start making a couple payments. Then you're going to start stacking the debt right back away. If you don't have a real reason to say, hey, wait a second, I want to break this cycle of unhealthy relationships, start having a good relationship, guess what? You're probably going to just repeat the cycle. You need to figure out what that why is. So my challenge for you is, yes, dream big. Come up with some big goals, some big dreams as we get ready to roll into this new year. But my challenge for you is on every single thing that you set out to do, I want you to become crystal clear as to why you want to do it. And if you can have a strong enough reason why, if you can have something significant that's going to make it worth it for you, I can assure you of this, that you're going to significantly increase the likelihood of you making things happen. And let me just tell you, I'm so super excited. I can't wait to hear your success stories. I can't wait to hear about the things that you're making happen. But let me remind you, be very clear as to why you want to make those things happen. Here's what I know. Chances are you got something that you want to act on. I don't know what that thing is for you. Maybe perhaps you've been thinking about making a career change. Maybe for you, you've been thinking about starting a new business venture. Maybe for you, you've been thinking about going back to school. Maybe perhaps you are in a career field and you're thinking about pursuing your goals, pursuing your dreams, and making some things happen. But let me tell you a common mistake that we make. A lot of times when it's time for us to move forward on our goals and our dreams, when it's time for us to make something happen, we always feel as if we don't have enough information to act. We feel oftentimes like we don't have enough resources to act. Sometimes we feel as if it's just not the right timing. And so unfortunately, when we do that, let me tell you what happens. We end up putting our goals, we put our dreams, put everything that we've been put on this place to do, we put all those things on hold. And so I've got a message for you tonight. And the purpose of this message is to help you to get unstuck, to help you to get off the sideline, to get you beyond that conversation where you keep trying to tell yourself that you don't have the resources, you don't have the information, you don't have everything that you need. Here's what I want to tell you, and I want you to write this down for those of you who are note takers, and for those of you who are watching live, you want to go ahead and type this in. Here's what I want you to know. This is the key phrase for tonight's message. You need to move on what you know. And you say, well, Andy, what do you mean by that? Because here's what I know. Regardless of what it is that you're looking to accomplish, regardless of what it is that you're looking to make happen in your life, here's what I know, that you know just enough to be deadly. You know just enough to be at least able to start. And so stop convincing yourself that you don't have enough information. Stop convincing yourself that you don't necessarily have enough resources. Stop convincing yourself that it's not the right timing. I'm telling you that all of that is a bunch of garbage. It's a bunch of hoopla. And what you need to do is simply move on what you know. And there's some things that you know. What you know is that this job that you've been working at, that you've been sick and tired of being sick and tired. What you know is this wonderful, amazing business opportunity you've been wanting to move forward on. This is your time to do it. What you know is that you need to literally start getting out of debt. What you know is this is your time to finally start losing the weight. What you know is that you need to raise the bar and take your life to the next level. And so listen, what I need you to understand, what you know is enough for you to start moving forward. What you know is enough for you to start writing the book. What you know is enough for you to start the business. What you know is enough for you to start taking your life to the next level. And so one of the things that I need you to understand is this: stop convincing yourself that you don't have the resources, that you don't have the information. And so I'm going to share something with you, and I'm going to break it down for you very slowly because I need you to understand this. I want you to write this down for those of you who are note takers. Listen carefully. If you move on what you know, things will ultimately become clear to you. But understand this: if you don't move on what you don't know will paralyze you. I'm going to break that down. I'm going to say it to you one more time, and I need you to go ahead and get this. I need you to write this down because this can literally change your life if you could allow this to register. I'm going to break it down for you real slow. Listen, if you move on what you know, if you move on the little bit that you know about writing the book, if you move on the little bit that you know about this business that you want to start, if you move on the little bit that you know about making this career change, if you move on just a little bit that you know about this dream, this goal that you're pursuing, if you move on what you know, guess what? Ultimately, the next step will reveal itself and things will become clear to you. However, but listen carefully to this: if you don't move on what you know, if you don't move on what you don't know will paralyze you. I'm going to say that one more time. If you don't move on what you don't know will paralyze you. And unfortunately, that's what happens to a lot of people. You know, what happens is that they got a dream, they got a goal, they got something that they want to move forward on. And then they start thinking about what they don't know. They start thinking about perhaps the resources that they don't yet have. They start thinking about, I don't know the entire process to writing a book and then publishing it, so I'm just not going to start. Or they say, well, I don't know all the steps to getting my business off the ground, so I'm just not going to start. I don't know all the steps to making this career change, so I'm just not going to start. And so what happens is, if you don't move on what you know, then what you don't know will paralyze you. And that's what I want to shift for you today. That's what I want to change for you. What I want you to realize is this: that you have something, you have just enough information to act on your goal, on your dream. Stop staying on the sidelines. Stop convincing yourself that now is not the time. Stop convincing yourself that you don't have the resources. Stop convincing yourself that you've got to wait for some kind of perfect timing. What I'm telling you is this: that you simply need to move on what you know. And the reason why I'm sharing this with you is because, listen, I've had to experience this firsthand. I can remember right now when I was still working in corporate America. I was working for a great company by the name of PricewaterhouseCoopers. And I had this desire, I had this dream of becoming an entrepreneur. I had this dream of figuring out what my passion and what my purpose was. And so maybe you can relate to that. You got something that you've been wanting to act on, something that you've been wanting to do. And then every time I thought about acting on the dream, every time I thought about leaving my corporate job and pursuing my goals and my dreams, every single time I thought about making a thing happen, guess what happened? I would talk myself out of it. And the main reason why I was talking myself out of it was because there were some things that weren't clear to me. There were some things that I didn't know. Like, I didn't know what my next career move was going to be. I didn't know how things were going to work out for me. I didn't know how I was going to replace my income. I didn't know if I was guaranteed to have success. I didn't know whether or not I was going to fail. And because of the fact I was fixated on all the things that I didn't know, I became paralyzed and I didn't move forward. And literally, that process happened to me for about 1.5 years. And the reason why I'm sharing that with you is because I know that there's some of you who are listening in right now, and that's where you're at right now. You got something that you've been wanting to act on, something that you've been wanting to take steps forward towards. And every single time you think about acting, every single time you think about moving forward, You start thinking about all the things that you don't know, the resources that you don't have, and then guess what happens? You become paralyzed and you don't move forward. If you move on what you know, things will become clear to you. Are you listening to me on this? If you move on what you know, things will become clear to you. The next step will reveal itself. Martin Luther King said that faith is taking the first step, even when you can't see the entire staircase. There are going to be times in your life that you're not going to know what all the steps are. You're only going to be able to take just one step. But guess what happens? After you take that first step, the next step will be revealed to you. And then after you take the next step, the following step will be revealed to you. And so one of the things that you just have to get very, very good at is just moving on the single thing that you know, even if it's just a little tiny bit. If all you know just seems so small compared to all that you don't know, all you need to know is just enough to at least get started. Most people won't get started on their goals and their dreams. Most people won't begin to push the process forward. Unfortunately, most people will sit on the sidelines and start talking about all the things that they want to make happen, and then keep staying fixated on the things that they do not know. And because of that, guess what happens? They never, ever move forward. And so the book never gets written. The business never starts. The career change never happens. They never find that special someone, the husband, the wife. They never get out of debt. They never get that ideal body shape that they want. And so what happens is they become fixated on all the things that they do not know. And so what happens is when you focus on the things that you do not know, understand this, it will paralyze you. It will keep you from moving forward. And so the thing that successful people have mastered is that they understand is that you're not always going to have all the pieces to the puzzle. And so for those of you right now, go ahead and type that in right now. Listen carefully. Stop waiting to have all the pieces of the puzzle. You're not going to have all the pieces of the puzzle. Sometimes you're going to have to start writing the book even when you're not quite sure what the entire process is going to be and how you're going to publish the book. Sometimes you got to go ahead and start the business when you're not even quite sure what all the steps are to get from starting the business to actually becoming profitable. But the main thing is you just need to start. Listen, sometimes you're not going to know how things are going to work out before you decide to step out there and start dating and meeting people again. Guess what? It's going to be no guarantee. You're not going to know if the person's going to say yes, if they're going to say no, but you have to move forward. In other words, you need to simply move on what you know. That's what I need you to get tonight. That's what I need to get you. That's what I need to register in your mind. That you need to simply move on what you know, even if what you know seems so very small compared to all that you do not know in the process. And trust me on this, I know that in an ideal situation, you would like to know everything. I know that you would like to know what the next step is. I know that you would like to know what all the steps are. I know you would like to know exactly who's going to help you out, where all the resources are going to come from. Listen, I've tried to figure it all out many a times, right? I tried to make sure that I had all the pieces to the puzzle before I moved forward. And guess what happened? I didn't move. I became stuck. I became stagnant. And so what I need you to understand is if you want to get to the place where you're moving towards your dreams and that you're not just sitting on the sideline, you need to learn how to take action with just a little bit of information that you know. And so I want you to think back. I'm working in corporate America. It's 2004. And so I've been sitting on the sideline for a year and a half. And the reason why I'm sitting on the sideline is because I'm fixated and I'm focused on all the things you don't know, all the things I don't know. I'm saying to myself, well, Andy, what's going to be your next move? Andy, what are you going to do? Andy, how are you going to become an entrepreneur? Andy, how are you going to figure out what your passion, what your purpose is? How are you going to replace your income? I was fixated on all the things that I didn't know. And because I was fixated on the things I didn't know, listen carefully, I became paralyzed. But something happened in December of 2004 for me. Something amazing happened. And that's what I want to happen for you today. I made a shift and I stopped focusing on what I didn't know. And I decided to simply focus on what I did know. And so that's where the shift took place, is where I began to say, wait a second here, Andy. I understand there's a lot of things that you do not know, but I need you to focus on what is it that you do know. And the thing that I did know was that even though I was working for this amazing company, I knew in my heart that something inside of me was saying, Andy, there's got to be more than this. And let me tell you something else. Something else that I did know is I knew that if I didn't move forward on my goals and my dreams, that I was going to be like a lot of other people that just kept having great conversation, but yet and still we're doing absolutely nothing. Because there are some of my coworkers that every year they were telling me about their other dreams, their other ambitions, and every year they didn't act. And I knew that if I didn't act, that I was going to end up being just like them, just having a whole bunch of great conversation. Look, Mark Twain said 20 years from now, you're going to be more disappointed about the things that you didn't do rather than the things that you do. And so I knew, I said, wait a second, Andy, wait a second. You got to take some action here. You got to move forward. You got to make something happen. You got to stop sitting on the sideline, and you need to just focus on what you know. And so what I knew was that I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. What I knew is that something was saying, Andy, there's got to be more than this. What I knew is that the dream was big enough for me to figure it out. And so finally, in December of 2002, I built up some courage, and I walked into that office for a lady that was head of HR, a lady by the name of Tammy Klein. And I told her, hey, Tammy, I'm going to be leaving this company. And she said, well, what are you going to do? And I told her something, but I tell you honest, I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do. But I moved on the little bit that I did know. And I knew enough to get the process started. And that's why I'm sharing this message with you. I need you to get off the sidelines. I need you to understand that you have enough to get started. You know enough to start writing the book. You know enough to start the business. You know enough to make the career shift. You know enough to start the process of losing the weight. You know enough to start the process of getting out of debt. You know enough to start the process of pursuing your goals and your dreams. Listen to me carefully on this. Move on what you know. If you move on what you know, things will become clear to you. Steps will begin revealed. People will come into your life. Doors will begin to open. Things will begin elevated if you simply move on what you know. But if you don't move on what you know, if you just become fixated on all the things that you don't know, guess what's going to happen? Guess what's going to happen to you? Unfortunately, you're going to become paralyzed, and you're just not going to move forward. And it's going to be one of those situations where you say to yourself, man, I keep having the same conversation, but nothing's happening in my life. And so understand this. I think about, one of the stories that I share quite a bit is the story about my mom. And there's something that my mom did that was so amazing. My mom, she came to the United States with very limited resources. And she was operating a restaurant. She was operating a business. And there became a time when she was operating this restaurant that unfortunately the restaurant was being put into foreclosure, not because she wasn't paying the rent, but because of the fact that the landlord who actually owned the building, that landlord wasn't paying their mortgage. And so what happened is my mom found out, right, through a notice that the property was actually going to go to a foreclosure. Now, here's what I need you to understand. My mom knew very little about what the foreclosure process even looked like. She knew very little about what the auction process was going to look like. But what happened is she could have focused on all the things that she didn't know. For one, she didn't know what the foreclosure process was like. She didn't know why the property was really going into foreclosure. She didn't even know, what the probability was for her to actually be able to stay in the property if she met who the new person was. But my mom made a conscious decision. She said, you know what? Even though there's a lot of things I don't know, I'm just going to go to the foreclosure sale anyway. And I'm just going to move on the little bit that I do know. And what I do know is that this foreclosure sale is taking place on this day. And I'm going to see if I can show up and if I could convince whoever is going to buy this property, if there's any way that I could stay there. And for some of you who've heard the story, one of the most amazing things happened because my mom was willing to just simply move on the little bit that she knew. She showed up to the foreclosure sale, and literally by the grace of God, something amazing happened. And my mom just had a step of courage. And even though she showed up just to observe and see whoever's going to win the property was going to allow her to stay, my mom took a step of faith and she actually bid on the property. And guess what? She won the bid. And she was able to raise the money to purchase the property. And literally, that one moment completely changed everything for my mom. And so what I need you to understand is this. There's a lot of things that she did not understand and that she did not know in that process. But she didn't focus on what she didn't know. No, 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 no. She focused simply on what she knew. She had a date and she had a location for where the foreclosure sale was going to take place. And so what I need you to understand is this, that you have just enough information to be deadly. You got just enough information to start the process of writing your book. You got just enough information to start the process of starting your business. You got just enough information to be able to start the career shift. You have just enough information to be able to lean in and start pushing in towards your passion and your goal and your dream. And all you have to do is be able to do this very, very simple thing. It's simple, but I'm not necessarily saying it's easy. You got to simply learn how to do this. You got to move on what you know, because when you move on what you know, things will become clear to you. Doors will begin to open. People will begin to show up. But listen carefully. If you don't move on what you know, listen, what you don't know will paralyze you. I cannot drill this into your mind enough. I can't get you to stop thinking about this. You know, I learned a lot of things from my wife because we're different in many ways. And it was funny because we were going shopping for some living room furniture. And so my wife is the kind of person, you know, when she needs to make a decision, she just needs a little bit of information and she's ready to make a very fast decision. Me, on the other hand, a lot of times I want to get all the information. I want to do a whole lot of research. And so all we're looking, now this is a simple little silly, stupid story, but I need you to get the lesson here. We decided to go out and go shopping for a new living room set, right? And so we start going out and we go to all the different furniture stores. And so the very first furniture store we walk into, my wife sees the set and she sees it. She's like, listen, this is it. This is good. We can buy this. It's it. No more shopping. We're all done. But of course, me, I always need more information, right? And so I'm like, well, wait a second. Let me do a little more research on this particular set that we're taking a look at. But wait a second. Let's not stop here. Let's go to a couple other stores and go check out to see what else they have, right? And I'm like, and so now we literally, had we just followed my wife's lead, we would have been in and out of the store in basically 15 minutes, and the process would have been 15 minutes. Because of the fact that I wanted more information, I wanted to gather more details. We ended up literally spending hours going from literally one furniture store to another furniture store to another furniture store to another furniture store to another furniture store. And I still felt like I needed more information. I needed to see more sets. I needed to know what the quality was. I needed to know what the warranties were. But here's what I need you to understand. There is power in the person who has the ability to just get enough information to move forward. You see, when I told my wife, well, you want to get this set? Well, we didn't even take a look at enough other sets. Well, we didn't even do enough research. She says, listen, I'm going to move on what I know. And what I know is that this set looks better than what we have at the house. And that's enough information for me to go ahead and make this decision. And so literally, she was able to move forward and make a decision. Whereas me, on the other hand, I'm hours delayed. And literally, if it was up to me, I'd probably still be doing research and still be looking for a furniture set. Thank God she understands that sometimes you got to just move on what you know. And so what I need you to understand is this, that a lot of us, here's what we do. We postpone our goals. We postpone our dreams. So many things that we want to make happen because of what? Why? Because of the fact that we just simply are fixated on all the things that we don't know, right? And then what happens is when we become fixated on what we don't know, there's something that's called the spotlight effect. And then all of a sudden, it gets that much more bigger. And now you convince yourself, I don't have enough information to start the business. I don't have enough information to make a decision. I don't have enough information to start the coaching. I don't have enough information to start writing my book, to start the business. And so what happens is you become stagnant. And what happens is, guess what? Years go by, months go by, and guess what? You're not moving forward on your goals and your dreams. And so what I want you right now is I want you to go ahead and set yourself free. I want you to stop focusing on all the things that you don't know. And I want you to just try to figure out what's the one thing that you do know. What's the one thing that you do know that you can move forward on that's going to propel you and launch you forward. And if you're just simply willing to move on what you know, right? If you know that you got a great story, you know that if you write this book, your book is going to impact and change lives. That's enough information for you to start writing the book. If you know that you can bring a product or a service to the marketplace that is going to be able to impact and change somebody else's life, that's enough information. That's all you need to know to go ahead and at least start the process of starting your business. If you absolutely know that the job that you're in right now, the career that you're in right now, if you know that it's not in alignment with your purpose, you know that you're not fulfilled, you know that you're unhappy, you know that every single day you get in the car, you cringe on having to actually drive there, that's enough information for you to start the process to make a shift in your career, to go in a different direction. Listen carefully, listen to this. If you know that you're sick and tired of being lonely, if you know that you don't want to keep just repeating the old habits of the past, of all these toxic relationships, that's enough information that you need to start working on yourself and start preparing yourself to get into a happy, fulfilling relationship. Understand this. All I'm saying to you is this. You only need this much information. You only need a tiny bit of information. You only need just enough to at least get the process started. Most people will never get started. Why? Because they're fixated on all the things that they don't know. And so if you were to ask them, why haven't you started the business? Why haven't you made the career change? Why haven't you signed up for the coaching? Why haven't you pursued your goals and your dreams? Why haven't you done this thing that you've been talking about for the past month, for the past year? And they'll tell you, well, you know what? I'm still waiting on this. Or, I don't know how to do this. And so what happens is they literally make it so much bigger than what it is. They convince themselves that they don't have all the details, all the information. Listen, one of my mentors, a gentleman by the name of Les Brown, one of the top 5 speakers in the world, here's what he said. And I want you to go ahead and listen very carefully. He said, it's not what you don't have, but it's what you think you need that keeps you from having the level of success that you want in your life. I'm going to say that one more time. Les Brown, a man of great wisdom, here's what he said. He said, it's not what you don't have. It's not what you don't have, because what you have is enough. He said, it's not what you don't have, but it's what you think you need that's keeping you from having the success that you want to have in your life. Understand this, that there is somebody that had just the same amount of resources as you, that has just the same amount of information as you, that has just the same amount of talent as you. Instead of sitting on the sideline, they decided to act. They decided to move forward on their goals and their dreams, and that was enough for them to move forward. If you move on what you know, things will become clear to you. Martin Luther King said that faith is taking the first step without seeing the entire staircase. You take one step, the next step will reveal itself. You take the second step, the third step will reveal itself. You take the third step, the fourth step will reveal itself. Stop thinking that you're going to see all the steps in advance. Stop believing that you're going to have all the pieces of the puzzle. Life doesn't work that way. Trust me, I've tried to get all the pieces of the puzzle before moving forward on some of the things I want to make happen. It doesn't work that way. The only thing that you're going to do is you're going to delay your destiny. You're going to delay your goals. You're going to delay your vision. You're going to delay making some great things happen. And so ultimately, you got to be willing to simply move on what you know. Now, here's something that you need to understand. I got to tell you this, because if I don't tell you this, I'm just going to really listen. If I don't tell you this, this will take you out. Even when you make the decision to move on what you know. And you say, wait a second, Andy, I heard your message, man. You said I got to move on what I know. I've been sitting on the sidelines, man. I've been thinking about writing this book. I've been thinking about starting a business. I've been thinking about making this career change. I've been thinking about getting back out there and entering a happy, fulfilling relationship. I've been thinking about doing something to change my finances, my financial situation around. I've been thinking about doing something that's going to put me in position to get to my goals and my dreams. I've been thinking about it. I've been thinking about it, Andy. But now that I hear you say this, you're right. I've been fixated on all the things that I didn't know. And so now you're making me understand, wait a second, all I got to do is move on what I know. I don't need to have it all figured out. I don't need to have all the pieces of the puzzle. I don't need to know all the steps. All I need to know is just enough information to at least take the first step. Yes, that's what I'm telling you. But here's what I need you to know. Even when you decide to act on your goals and your dreams, even when you decide to move forward, even when you finally build up the courage to move on the thing that you know, understand this. I want to share this with you so this doesn't take you out. You got to expect to be tested. Go ahead. For those of you who are right now, go ahead and type that down right now. Put expect to be tested. And the reason why I share that with you is understand this. Understand this. Listen, when you make the decision to act, when you make that decision to write the book, when you make that decision to start the business, when you make the decision to make the career change, when you make the decision to get out of debt, when you make the decision to enter a happy, fulfilling relationship, when you make the decision to change your life, here's one thing that is guaranteed. You can expect to be tested. Something is going to show up. Something is going to happen that is going to test your commitment to see if you really want it. One of my mentors long time ago, a gentleman by the name of Byron Nelson, here's what he said. Here's what he shared with me. He said, Andy, commitment is doing what you said you were going to do long after the feeling has left you when you said you were going to do it. I'm going to say that one more time. He said, commitment is doing what you said you were going to do long after the feeling has left you when you said you were going to do it. And I tell you, there was wisdom in those words. And the reason why is because when you say that you're going to do something, like write the book, when you say that you're going to do something, like start the business, when you say that you're going to do something, like make the career change, when you say that you're going to do something, like get back out there and find a husband or a wife, when you say that you're going to do something, like pursue your goals and your dreams, one thing that you can anticipate is even though you may feel great when you say that you're going to do it, life is going to present a test. And so you've got to expect to be tested.